important.
I respond to a comment. Someone said that what we said was, since Stephen Furtick has over 300,000 subscribers, let's go put his name on our video and see if we can steal some of his light. Wrong. Wrong. Actually, our concern is that he has 300,000 subscribers that are following a heretic that's preaching a false gospel and leading people to eternal damnation.
My concern...
So I'm on a roll. So our concern is not about getting his light, but warning people that they're going to hell if they're following his false teaching. Continue.
Because within these churches, you're tricking false converts into thinking they're saved. You're telling them, you prayed a prayer, you got baptized, you're saved. They haven't heard the gospel. They haven't heard the law and the gospel given to them. So those people have been tricked. They think they're Christians and they're not.
Right.
And then there's true Christians there that are burdened, that continuously get this law heaped upon them that they can't fulfill, but Christ fulfilled for them, but they don't hear it. How do I know this? Because I went to a church like that. I heard it. I was at a mega church. I heard the law, always the law, bearing down on me with no absolution, no grace preached to me. And I asked the pastor one day when I left that church, and I said, why don't we hear about the gospel? Why don't we hear about Jesus? And he said these two things to me. He said, all of this is the gospel, right? And then he said, why don't we talk about Jesus more? I only have 30 minutes. I only have 30 minutes. That's the mentality. It's about growth. It's about getting your church bigger, about getting numbers. It's not about genuinely preaching the gospel so that individual lives are saved from hell. And it heaps that burden upon the normal Christian. If you go to that church and you're an actual Christian, please leave. Please remove yourself from such a place. Go to a place that's preaching the gospel, that you hear the gospel preached. Each and every week you are reminded that you are saved in Christ, that you have peace with God, that you've been granted everything that pertains to life and godliness. Past tense, as Peter says in 2 Peter. All things pertaining to life and godliness have been granted to you. That's the kind of peace and that we should have.
So we're running low on time here, so I know you wanted to get to Mark 6, so I'll let you.
Just the verse that he was preaching from. So there's two accounts of this, one in Matthew's gospel and then one in Mark, and it's the story of when Jesus returns to Nazareth. So he goes back home, he has his followers with him, and it's the famous passage in verse 4 where he says, Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor, except in his hometown and among his relatives and those of his own household. So the next verse is the verse of focus. That's the point of the video. He could do no mighty work there except that he laid his hands on a few sick people and healed them. And he marveled because of their unbelief. So given the foundation we've already laid down about God's sovereignty, about how he cannot be thwarted, you cannot say that Jesus could not heal someone if it was within him to do so, if he had the ability to
do it. If he wanted to and he had the ability to, but that was a contradiction in itself.
It's not going to work.
He was able to, but he couldn't.
It's not going to work.
It's the sovereignty of man that's being taught. That's why I say word of faith heresy. Word of faith heresy, because you're teaching that there's some sort of law that constrains God. There's some sort of law of the universe that whether he created it or not.
There is a standard higher than God.
There's something that is controlling God. He can't do it because you haven't believed hard enough. Your faith, the reason you have cancer, the reason you have these sickness, you don't have the faith to do it. That's the same thing that word of faith heretic preachers like Kenneth Copeland, T.D. Jakes, all of these people that we have no problem calling out would say. And Stephen Furtick says it in a little bit more palatable way, and people are unwilling to call him out on it.
And if you don't believe me, people do say that. They say stuff like that. You guys seen our video of our friend Charlie Kingston, Joy New Charlie, that passed away from brain cancer. He was like on his deathbed, and literally some word of faith person told him that it was because he was in sin.
Well, that's like Johnny Erickson Tata, right? Johnny Erickson Tata, paraplegic.
Yeah.
She went to a charismatic word of faith church like that, and that's what they told her. And it's like, that's the kind of things that they're hearing. And you see people that are crippled or, that have these deformities that they can't move, and yet they think, if I just had the faith power, then I could walk.
It's really damaging in an immediate way and in an eternal way, for sure.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
And just that passage, just to deal with kind of the issue there of the text saying Jesus could do no mighty work there, that actual Greek phrase appears elsewhere in the New Testament too, and it has different usages depending upon its context. So it doesn't always mean did not have the ability, right, or
Right.
could not do, right? It's actually pertaining to someone like, I will not do this,
Right.
right? So in the parable of the wedding feast that Jesus tells in
Yeah.
Luke chapter 14, the man who's unwilling to offer bread in Luke chapter 11 verse 7. So these are examples of this very
he wasn't
same thing.
he wasn't being physically restrained from
Right.
offering bread. He was
He's not
unwilling.
saying he's like, Jesus, I got married, I can't come right now,
Right.
I don't have the ability. No, you
Right.
will not.
Right.
That's the
Right.
point, is that Jesus in that passage was intentionally withholding his miraculous power because of their unbelief.
Yeah.